All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you, just like me. Thanks for being here. I'm going to be talking about John Bon Jovi, and he says at this point, it's up to God. So we'll kind of unpack what that's all about. Before I get there, here's Brian Barnhouse and his album Confessions. Somewhere between Blackfoot, the band, and maybe like Corey Hart. All right. Hard to describe. There's some Midwestern thing going on here. There's some Southern thing going on. There's some pop and rock from the 80s kind of mixed in with this. Brian is a guitarist, so hence there he is, the guitar slinger, Brian Barnhouse, looking mean and looking like he's ready to perform some live music for you. Here's the back cover, and you can go to his website, brianbarnhouse.com, to find out more about Brian and to figure out what this truly sounds like. You might have your own opinion. You could share it with me, or you could share it with Brian. Now, John Bon Jovi, who was kind of important to me growing up. I had the chance to meet John and Richie back in 1990. That was amazing. And it was one of the most memorable events that I've had as a radio guy at the time. So was too young to really appreciate anything when I was going through that. But getting to what this article is all about. So again, he's opening up, he's talking to Entertainment Tonight about what happened to his vocal cords. And he says, day to day, I'm working hard on it, he said, noting that he's doing vocal therapy any chance he gets. He says, nothing else matters until I work on getting better. But he says, it's up to God at this point. I've done everything I can do. Now, this next statement endears John Bon Jovi to me, even though I'm not down with his politics. All right. Just saying. I think he supported Hillary Clinton for president, and obviously he supports the current mess that we have in the White House. Anyway, just going to put that aside for a moment and say this. I think what he says here is very important for the rest of the classic rock world. All right. And I know there's a lot of money out there and there's a lot of artificial intelligence, but this is what he says. He isn't giving up. And also he assured the fans, I won't fake it. I won't fake it. The legacy matters too much. All right. Full stop. There you go. That is somebody who I admire, at least from the standpoint that don't try to fool everybody. Don't go out there and hurt the legacy of this band. Now, there are bands currently on tour right now. There's one of them, right? Completely viral on YouTube. Different channels talking about, are they really singing? Don't know. Doesn't look good. Doesn't sound like they're really singing. John Bon Jovi knows that he could fake it. He could just, hey, find a vocal track from 2003. And they can, and they would. And with all the other AI, they can make it sound legitimate. Of course, if there's a new song, they can't plug it in. Well, they might be able to figure out a way, because all they need, like I did a video on this, all they need is a vocal sample. I'm sure you've been seeing the deep fake videos where it's like a Donald Trump and he's talking, and you could tell it's not really Donald Trump's voice, but it's got some of the similar characteristics to it. And they make a song out of it, and it's clever and it's creative, but it also feels empty. It's something about it that's not authentic. There's creativity in it, but it lacks authenticity, right? So anyway, he goes on to say, I won't compromise who we are as a band live. He says, because I'd like to think we're a pretty darn good band. He says, I sang on the new record. I've done Music Cares and nailed it. When I woke up after that night, it was the first time in a decade the only voice in my head was mine. Fear wasn't there, doubt wasn't there. And my wife, Dorothea, texted the kids and said, "He's back." That's cool. That's very cool. John previously discussed his vocal injury this past February during a panel about the upcoming Bon Jovi docuseries, Thank You, Good Night, the Bon Jovi story, right? And he says, I pride myself on being a true vocalist. I've sung with Pavarotti. I know how to sing. I've studied the craft for 40 years. I'm not a stylist who just barks and howls. I know how to sing. So when God was taking away my ability and I couldn't understand why, I jokingly said the only thing that's ever been up my nose is my finger. So there was no reason for this, basically saying that he didn't do cocaine. Elaborating on his vocal injury, he said, one of my cords was literally atrophied. So my vocal cords, they're supposed to look parallel. So let's pretend one of them looks as thick as my thumb and the other one is as thick as a pinky. So the strong one was pushing the weak one aside and I wasn't singing well. So my craft was being taken from me. He said, fortunately, I found a surgeon who was able to do this, really cutting edge implant to build the cord back up. It's still in the process. So he's still working through this, but man, super well said. And I commend him for the part about we're not going to fake it. Why fake it? It just, at this point, I know money, right? Money is why you fake it. And all of these bands that are out there faking it for money, all right, nobody, okay, who could have imagined 40 years ago that these bands would still be here? Because normally you have bands that replace the old bands and kind of take over, but the music didn't get better, because if the music had gotten better, you would have had displacement, and then you would have had replacement. And then, yeah, a few of these bands would go on these nostalgia tours. I mean, I know bands from the 60s, they used to make the rounds in the 80s and maybe into the 90s, but then they went away, right? How old is Journey, right? How old are the Eagles? These are bands, okay, we're still going. Now, in the case of Journey, they have a new singer or a different singer. John, of course, is the original. And, you know, there are other bands that are trying to hold on to their original singers. In some cases, it works. In other cases, it's sad. It's not a disaster, but it's sad. It depends how bad it is. Could be a disaster, but kudos to John. John, you said the right thing and you're doing the right thing. And let's pray that, you know, God restores his vocal cords, because he's talking about God quite a bit, which is interesting. It's interesting. I wonder what his views are. His politics, but maybe, you know, it's hard to know somebody if you don't actually know them. I did talk to him for about a half hour, 25 minutes or so. And this was back in 1990. And he was really nice guy. And same thing with Richie Sambora, both good guys from Jersey. I like talking to people from Jersey. Brian Barnhouse, he's not from Jersey. He's from, I think, the Midwest somewhere. This is his album called Confessions. Check it out if you have a chance to do so. Please also, if you can support this channel, you can do Buy Me a Coffee. You can do Patreon, which we talk a lot on Patreon. People send messages, patrons, I call them. And then you've got YouTube members who typically get early watching privileges. So when I'm done with this video, I will upload it and it will appear first to YouTube members. For some people, it's like, no, I wanted to wait. I didn't want to see this guy. But the YouTube people, apparently they're gluttons for punishment. They want to see the videos sooner than the other folks get to see them. Anyway, folks, God bless. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching these videos. And please, again, pray for peace in the Middle East. Things aren't good in the Middle East. And you know what? We were talking about God during this video. God is a God of peace, right? God is not a God of war. That's why Jesus, he's known as the Prince of Peace. And for good reason. He wanted peace. I know he brought a sword, but he also wanted peace. And let's pray for that. And in the meantime, I will see you then or see you soon.